This is called Around the World in San Francisco, a guide to the unexplored San Francisco, by Leonard Austin. It looks like an antique. This is 1960. It says, where San Franciscans from all nations meet, eat, dance, and get to know each other. Copyrighted 1959. Race and ethnic groups this is a list. American Indian, Arabic-speaking peoples, Armenian, Assyrian, Austrian, British, Bulgarian, Canadian, Chilean, Colombian, Chinese, Croatian, Czech, Danish, Ecuadorian, English, Estonian, East Indian, Finnish, French, German, Greek, Guatemalan, Gypsy, Haitian, Hawaiian, Hungarian, Icelandic, Indonesian, Iranian, Iraqi, Irish, Italian, Japanese, Jewish, Korean, Latin American, Latvian, Lithuanian, Mexican, Negro, Nicaraguan, Norwegian, Pakistani, Pakhtuni, Polish, I won't say Polish, maybe they like to polish too, Polynesian, Peruvian, Portuguese, Russian, Salvadorian, Scottish, Serbian, Slovenian, Slovak, Spanish, Swedish, Swiss, Syrian, Tatar, Turkish, Ukrainian, Welsh, West Indian, Yugoslav. Pakhtuni, that's the first I've ever heard of that group. Comment your group. So we have consular offices, foreign trade organizations, Chamber of Commerce, intercultural organizations, radio stations, broadcasting foreign language programs, theaters, exhibiting foreign films, explanations of calendar, and calendar festivals. Illustrations. Mission Dolores, built and established by California Indians, courtesy of San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Scottish Bagpipes, courtesy San Francisco News. Blessing Chinese New Year's Lion, courtesy San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Hindu Temple, courtesy of Hugh Churchill. Italian Fishing Fleet, courtesy San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Macaroni Factory, courtesy San Francisco News. Japanese Tea Garden, courtesy San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Jewish New Year's, blowing of shofar, ram's horn, courtesy San Francisco News. Latvian Hall, courtesy Hugh Churchill. Mexican Movie Theater, courtesy Hugh Churchill. Russian Church, Our Lady of Kazan, courtesy Hugh Churchill. Around the World in San Francisco is a guidebook to the ethnic, racial, and religious groups of the San Francisco-Oakland metropolitan area. It is useful as a reference book for libraries, teachers, social workers, students of sociology, languages, music, and dance, comparative religions as a guide for residents and visitors alike who are interested in sampling exotic entertainment, foods, and observing something of other customs and cultures. Around the world in San Francisco lists churches, organizations, publications, bookshops, restaurants of the Bay Region's ethnic groups and describes them briefly. These listings are by no means all-inclusive. To list every organization would be in some cases repetitious. The well-organized groups have halls or community centers where many, often dozens, of organizations meet. This is true of the German and Scandinavian-speaking groups and some of the larger ethnic groups where there are a number of societies. In the case of the Chinese, it runs into the hundreds. Only those have been listed that can serve as an indication of the social, religious, and political preferences of the whole group. Small gatherings that meet in private homes or in church parlors, or large clubs that meet infrequently at no fixed date have not been included. Every effort has been made to make the listing of churches authentic and up to date. Like the rest of America, the ethnic groups have been supporting a vigorous church building program, erecting modern and expensive structures in new neighborhoods in the wake of their congregations. The Protestant churches conduct services entirely in the language of their service. Some congregations have foreign language services only once or twice a month, others only once or twice a year. A few churches have abandoned foreign language services entirely, but the American-born, English-speaking members of the ethnic group maintain their membership through family loyalties and sentiment. In Roman Catholic churches, Masses are said in Latin, and in churches of the Byzantine Rite of the Catholic Church in the liturgical language of the Rite. In San Francisco, the Byzantine Church uses Old Slavonic. In some churches, the reading of the Gospel and church announcements are in both English and the native language of the congregation. In other churches, a sermon is given in the native tongue only at the High Mass. The Eastern Orthodox churches celebrate the liturgy in various languages. Russians and Serbians in Old Slavonic, Greeks in Classic Hellenic, Syrians in Arabic, Armenians in Classic Armenian. In some Greek churches, the Gospel and some prayers are sung in English. But attempts to celebrate the liturgy entirely in English have met with but little success. Buddhist priests chant their liturgy in either Chinese or Japanese, as the case may be. In some Japanese Buddhist sects, English services are given for American-born Japanese and English language converts. The churches listed under the Irish section are not exclusively Irish churches. They are parish churches and were included because their congregations include a majority of Irish-born members or because the churches are dedicated to Irish saints. Churches were included under the British section for their historical connection with the British inhabitants of the city. Among the Negroes, churches are legion, most of them small sects meeting in private homes or stores. Only those churches were listed where the numerical size of the congregation and its economical status or the personality of the pastor have been of great influence in the Negro community. Newspapers were included as they are one of the best sources of information on ethnic groups. It should be remembered, however, that periodicals frequently express decided political, religious, or economic views, and any information gained from their pages or from the editor should be followed by subsequent information from other sources. Proprietors of bookshops and pastors of churches are usually sound sources of information. Consular officials can be a source of information in varying degrees. Some foreign governments keep detailed records of all their nationals. Here, their homeland connections, occupations, organizations. Other consular offices keep no records at all and have little contact with their countrymen here. None at all after they become citizens. Consular employees can usually direct the inquiry to the group leaders. Only names of restaurants which are patronized by ethnic groups themselves have been included. Although quality and authenticity of food and efficiency of service dictated the choice, popularity with the people was the final criterion. Where there was an embarrassment of riches, as in the case of the French, Italian, and Chinese restaurants, the selection was entirely personal. Also listed in the book are the radio stations which broadcast foreign language programs, theaters presenting foreign films, special lists which deal with foreign trade, consular offices, intercultural organizations, foreign language collections, in public, private libraries, and calendar festivals. The foreign-born white population of the San Francisco-Oakland metropolitan area is 246,000 people out of a total population of 2.2 million. This is a slight increase over 1940, where 243 were foreign-born, were counted. This number refers only to foreign-born white, since the U.S. Census has no separate enumerations for foreign-born non-white. Non-whites are classified by racial groups, and no distinction is made between native or foreign-born. The 1950 census gives 209,000 as the number of non-whites in the Bay Area, a threefold increase over the 63,000 of 1940. Negro inhabitants increased from 19,000 to 146,000. The Chinese, 25 to 34,000, Japanese, 12 to 13, and other non-white peoples, mostly Filipinos, from 6 to 13,000. Between 40 and 1950. San Francisco's foreign-born white population is 120,000 out of total 780,000 foreign-born white population. Okay, the non-white population, 81,000. Of this number, 43,000 are Negro, 24,000 Chinese, 5,000 Japanese, 7,000 other Negroes, increased over 800% from 1940, 4,800. The Chinese population increased by about 40%, the Japanese 5.7%, other non-whites 95%. Of 6 cities in the country most closely corresponding in size only to San Francisco, only Boston has a larger percentage for foreign-born white population. Boston, Massachusetts. On the West Coast, San Francisco has the largest percentage of foreign-born whites. but LA and Oakland have more non-whites in proportion to the population. The decrease in the number of foreign-born in San Francisco from 130 to 120,000 is in line with the general decrease in the foreign-born population of the U.S. Since the first exclusion laws of the 20s, there has been a decrease in the foreign-born in the foreign-born white population as a whole, although some ethnic groups have increased. The almost static growth of the foreign-born population of the San Francisco-Oakland metropolitan area is in contrast to the decrease in San Francisco. Okay, so in San Francisco it declined, but in Oakland it increased. This is due to several factors, chiefly the Great Migration from other sections of the country to the West Coast and the movement from the city to the suburban district. Foreign-born from Midwestern industrial centers have settled in great numbers about the Bay region. Particularly in East Bay cities, and many thousands of former San Franciscans of foreign birth have moved to regions further out from the city. The decrease of foreign-born in San Francisco has not been as sharp as in other large urban centers, for the city is a favorite place of settlement for Latin Americans, a new source of immigration which is only in its first stages. The small decrease in the city is also due to the numbers of refugees and displaced persons who have arrived within the past 10 years. First, those from fascism, later, and even at the present time, those from communism. The addition of wives and children of American citizens, especially the GI brides, should also be considered. The decrease in the number of foreign-born in San Francisco and the small increase in the Bay Area has not resulted in a corresponding decrease in the transplanted cultural life of the foreign-born. Okay. Number of foreign-born. So, okay, it's like, I got it. Decrease in the number of foreign-born. While many old country ways and habits have disappeared, there has been an astonishing survival of the multicolored. The intriguing, the archaic, the fanciful, the sublime philosophies, folkways, customs, lore, festivals. Ancient traditions persist, while at the same time new ideas, new techniques of living are gaining ground. To many foreign-born and to their American-born children, Americanization has meant merely the adopting of only those elements of American life which are necessary to the adjustment to conditions and to the fulfillment of a more comfortable way of life. They have accepted the outward trappings of American life, but have retained at times knowingly and appreciatively at other times, with the line of least resistance, the traditions of a folk people. For every immigrant to America has brought along with his personal possessions a pile of invisible luggage. They are folk people with a common body of tradition which is passed on orally from generation to generation. Their cultural life, as thin as it seems to be at times, is their link with the past. While it is not written, thin cultural tradition is embodied in 1,000 proverbs, sayings, folk songs, folk tales, and in the example of one generation to the next. Culture is generally thought of as something to do with art or opera, being able to sit through an evening of classical music, or being a member of the Book of the Month Club. That Pliny Washington, that shoe shine boy, whose grandparents were slaves, has a cultural heritage. That Manuel Ribeiro longshoreman has another, or that Epifanio Pinoy busboy at the Palace Hotel has another, is inconceivable. There is so much confusion over the words race and nationality and culture and civilization, and that there is a tendency to mix race with culture, nationality with civilization, and all these with language. That's true. There's so much confusion. These traditional habit patterns are what have survived to a remarkable degree. After more than a century of mass immigration, the cultural concepts, although somewhat blurred in some cases, are still the patterns of the majority of immigrants and their children. While maintaining loyalty and devotion to the land of their adoption, practicing their duties as citizens, and taking advantage of the privileges of democracy, they have kept within their homes the full culture of their ancestors. It is in the home and church that the transplanted cultures have found most fertile soil. How long these cultural trades will last is beyond conjecture. As the original immigrants pass away, the old folk ways fall into desuetude and finally vanish. Although the second generation has been extraordinarily faithful to many of the beliefs and customs of their ancestors, and even the third generation has found a new awareness in the identity of their forefathers in the history of the New World. The forces of industrial civilization are dealing the final blows to manners and morals that have endured for 1,000 years. Modern warfare is fatal to folk cultures. The impacts of 2 world wars have all but destroyed them in Europe, and they are fast disappearing in the rest of the world. The gradual breakup of the foreign colonies, magazines, newspapers, radio, and television are contributing in a subtler way to the transformation of folk societies in this country. The great migration now going on in America is as great as that of the mass migration from Europe 50 years ago. The movement from east to west and north to south in search for great opportunities, the march from rural districts to the cities and from the center of the cities to suburban neighborhoods have all contributed to the standardization of American life. Yet, lest we seem too pat in our observations, we will affirm that this melting pot process has had a reaction among many second and third generation Americans into reasserting their individuality. Thus, parallel with the melting pot process, a cultural integration along traditional lines has resulted in the development of Louis Adamic's nation of nations idea. The latter concept is growing among many educated young second and third generation Americans and forces serious observers to conclude that the cultural baggage of their immigrant parents and grandparents will endure for many years more. Much of the folk life will, of necessity, disappear. The native languages are already being spoken by fewer and fewer people. Foreign language newspapers have a struggle to exist. Many organizations will disband, and unfortunately many charming customs will wither in the arid soil of industrialism. Another 20 years will see the end of much of the vivid immigrant life of these United States. Yet much of the philosophy, the family customs, and the religious observances will remain. Even now in the year 1958, after mass immigration has ceased to be important in America, there are in San Francisco over 100 churches, temples, meeting houses in which services are given wholly or in part in 23 languages: French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Greek, Hebrew, Serbo-Croatian, Hungarian, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, Finnish, Latvian, Estonian, Russian, Ukrainian, Arabic, Armenian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Tagalog. These houses of worship are of the Jewish, Confucian, Buddhist, Taoist, Shinto, Muslim, Hindu, Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant faiths. In San Francisco and the East Bay, there are 25 newspapers published in 14 languages. 9 dailies, 4 in Chinese, 2 in Japanese, 2 in Russian, 1 in Italian. 9 weeklies, Russian, Chinese, Danish, Swedish, German, Serbo-Croatian, Italian, French, Portuguese. 5 monthlies in Russian, Italian, Spanish, Hungarian, Latvian, and 7 weeklies printed in English for the Irish, Italian, Scandinavian, Jewish, and Negro residents. 6 radio stations in the Bay Area include broadcast programs in Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian, French, Greek, Yugoslav, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Polish, Yiddish, Swedish. For those with a penchant for exotic foods, there are restaurants serving with the food of France, Belgium, Germany, Scandinavia, Russia, Hungary, Greece, Italy, Switzerland, Spain, Turkey, Iran, India, China, Japan, Philippines, Hawaii, Tahiti, and Hawaii, Mexico, Central America. We're going to pause right here. Thank you guys. We'll continue the next part. Around the World in San Francisco is the name. I'll see you guys later. My page is facebook.com. Yosalplay, YOSALLPLAY. I know I got some black stuff all over.